All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Lit in English, and we are on season 6 of Lit in English. And this season is titled "Understand Your Inner Self: Lead Up the Path to Happiness as Whole Being." And we are going to continue in our journey on the human structure as we left off last week. So let's go ahead and dive into today's discussion. All right. And just a quick recap on our journey last week, since this is greatly related to the discussion that we are going to have today. And just a quick reminder, this is the human structure, one of the three semantic reference systems, which are very, very important because through these three semantic reference systems, we can use it as a framework, as a reference to anything that we experience in this life, whether it is in the material world or whether it is in the material world. So for the human structure, we learned that at the very core of it, deep inside of our human structure, we have the will to hear, the will to see, the will to speak, and the will to know, surrounded by radiant aura or radiant energy. And we are borrowing the teaching from the Buddha because this is the spiritual view, which is the perspective that we borrow from spirituality. Because as many of you have already known, there are three big view in the world, that is philosophy, spirituality, and science. And there are certain things that science could not tell us the why. We have to borrow the view from philosophy and spirituality. So the will to hear, the will to see, the will to speak, and the will to know, surrounded by radiant energy or radiant aura, can also be called your spirit, right? It can also be called Buddha nature in Buddha teaching. And in a more scientific view, it is the genuine truth, the truth that we all have, right? Because knowledge is the truth, something that doesn't change over space and time. The expert has let us know that definition extremely, extremely important. So everything that does not change through space and time, that is the genuine truth. That is your spirit. That is your Buddha nature. And just right outside of the genuine truth, the will to hear, the will to see, the will to speak, and the will to know, surrounded by radiant energy, we have the 16 human nature. And through this 16 human nature, we can see how we react to the event, the things that we experience in this life. We can recognize where's it come from. And thanks to the expert, we learned that everything that we experience in this life is greatly moved by our greed and our imagination. An easier way to understand greed is just your desire. Let's say your desire to make a lot of money, your desire for knowledge, your desire for fame, for beauty, for prosperity, eating and resting. So through that 16 human nature, we can make an observation and see why we behave in a certain way. Why do we have certain desire over the other? And the 16 human nature is surrounded by the yin and yang electromagnetic field. And this is important because the yin and yang electromagnetic field, because of the wave that it make in this world, right? Because if you can make an observation in the world that we are living right now, you can see the shape of wave everywhere, like the wave of sound, the wavelength of sound, the wave of sunlight. Even in the ocean, you can see the ocean wave. And there is a book called Making a Wave, which is great. It talks about how common the form of wave exists in our world, and we can use its application to better our productivity. For example, instead of the 8 hour work days, you can break it down to a 60 to 90 minute focus on that task alone. And then you can take like 5 to 10 minute break or even 15-minute break or even longer, a 30-minute lunch break. And then you get right back to that 60 to 90 minute focus and your productivity boosts up tremendously. So there is some wisdom in the observation of wave. Now, the yin and yang electromagnetic field is important because through the 16 human nature, getting past the yin and yang electromagnetic field, we can make an observation of the 84,000 bubble of illusion. And again, this is the language of the Buddha teaching in a more common knowledge. We learn that this is our emotion, and there is one study that Whitney mentioned in last week that there is there are 34,000 distinct human emotions that was studied, and we suspect that there are 84,000 of them. It's just we haven't got to the number yet. And through the 16 human nature, through its movement past the yin and yang electromagnetic field, we have 84,000 bubble of illusion or 84,000 emotion. And we can see that the human nature by itself and on its own, it's simply just human nature, but through the effect of the yin and yang electromagnetic field or the negative and the positive electromagnetic field of this world, greed can be viewed as selfishness, as in you want something for yourself, right? You want wealth, you want fame, you want beauty for yourself. On the other spectrum, if the human nature get influenced by the positive energy, then the human nature of greed would be generosity, which means you have the desire, you have the want, you have the need for other people to do well in life, to have money, to have fame, to have beauty. You have a strong desire to help them achieve that. So the yin and yang electromagnetic field of the negative energy and the positive energy greatly influence the world that we live today. And similarly, the 16 human nature, you can break it down to the emotional cousin like wrath and satisfaction. And of course, there are many, many emotions in between. For delusion, we have clarity of foolishness. Arrogant on the positive side, we have pride. Negative is inferiority, skepticism, trusting versus doubt. For evil, benevolence versus cruelty. For bias, acceptance versus stubbornness. And this is extremely, extremely important because in happiness study, I learned the importance of emotional well-being. And for the emotional well-being, we need to learn to accept our experience when it comes to emotion, because by making an observation of our emotion, we can understand our thought, we can understand our action, we can go, we can trace back to the root of our essence. And by accepting, let's say, a negative emotion, it can open up to many, many opportunity to experience the good emotion that we experience in life. Therefore, understanding our emotion is extremely important. Now, just another layer outside of the emotional layer, we have the four element body: earth, water, fire, air. And we can understand this simply as the human body, right? And by making observation of our emotion, we can see that our emotion influence our facial structure, the way that we appear from the outside, as well as how we feel deep inside, right? And the human structure can simplify all of it, both the material world and the immaterial world, in a very, very clean and easy to understand way. And in happiness study, also we learn a principle, the second principle of whole being, that everything is interconnected. And in here and through our observation, we can see that everything is truly are or is interconnected, because through our emotion we can make an observation, the change in our body, the change in our human nature, and most importantly, how all of that causes us to not seeing or not experiencing our spirit, our essence of the will to hear, the will to see, the will to speak, and the will to know, surrounded by radiant aura. And the expert tell us that the center, the key to our human experience is greed and imagination, right? And as I explained earlier, greed can understand as our desire. Everything we desire, everything that we see in this world is governed by our greed and our imagination. And if we can really looking at this and make sense of it, we can understand why our emotion is also called the 84,000 bubble of illusion, because everything you see, everything you feel with your physical senses, they all are illusion. And in order to demonstrate it that last week, um, thanks to the question of Victoria in our discussion from last week, I had the opportunity to demonstrate a perception or a perspective of a 2D world in order to understand our experience in this 3D world, right? And I can prove that to you too, because imagine at night, right, when you make an observation of the beautiful sky and it was a full moon, right? And you can look up in the sky and you can see a beautiful full moon in the clear sky. And you can see a very bright circle. And if you didn't learn anything about the moon or about science, then to be very honest with you, in the past, I thought the moon was a circle when I'm making an observation in a full moon night. But then later on in life, when I go to school, I've learned that the moon is not a circle. The moon is actually the shape of a sphere in the 3D world. So what we see, we actually see it in 2D, right? Because like even you looking at the screen right now, it is 2D, it is not 3D. It's just the information that we receive in our brain help us understand that we are seeing 3D motion through space and time. Therefore, it is the truth, it is a fact that everything we see, everything we feel using our five senses in this 3D world, they are all illusion. And in order to understand that, we got to look at the 2D world, the two-dimensional world. So making an observation on this piece of paper, imagine that you live in this 2D world. And in this 2D world, we can see that there is a triangle within a rectangle, and both of them are inside of a circle. So if you are a point in this two-dimensional world on this piece of paper, when you make an observation toward the circle, you do not see a circle, you only see a line. Just how when we make an observation of the moon, we can only see a circle and not a sphere, right? So just to point it out that our emotions are very similar. If we just make an observation of it, and if we don't understand it of it true form of it genuine truth, we can only see emotion. But when we really making an observation of it and understand it, we can see the entirety of it. For example, you as a 3D being, 3D motion, 3D dimension being, or even higher, you can see clearly that there is a triangle within the rectangle within the circle. So the same concept apply in a higher dimensional thinking. And the great philosopher of the past have mentioned it in their teaching. The omniscient experience where one can know it all. And I'm not going to go there in this presentation because we will explore that when we present about wisdom. But this is to give us a really, really good understanding of how everything is interconnected and how we are very distant from our spirit, from our will to hear, will to see, will to speak, will to know, surrounded by radiant energy, or why it is so important that we get closer to our spirit, get closer to our own genuine truth. And this is a really big question that many people seek for many, many thousand and thousand of years. And last time we had great discussion, and I know some of us didn't have an opportunity to share, like Jesse, for example. So if you want to share your IM as in something you find interesting, something you find applicable, actionable, and meaningful. I think this is a great opportunity for us to share so that we can move on to a deeper discussion of the human structure. And I know Giovanni couldn't join us last time, but pretty much I just gave uh, an overview of the human structure of what we went over last time. If you have something to say, or if you have some questions that we can build to explore this further, I think this presentation is probably best when we have our discussion and question and answer. So, do you have any taker? If I can continue. But again, this is a great opportunity to share and to build on the knowledge. All right.
And I think you're doing a great job so far presenting that. So I don't really have anything. I just want to add on to it as we go.
Um, I can hear you, but it's very the volume is a little bit low. If you can uh, help us fix that, that would be great. I think we will have a lot of discussion in today. Thank you for your comment. That's very nice. Yes, for some reason I feel great today, and I think we are going to have a great time. All right. So building on top of what we went over earlier, today I want to share a very, very important topic when it's come to the human structure, when it's come to a spiritual view of of us, of our experience as human. And this view here, to be very honest, it wasn't very popular with me when I first heard of it, because it's mentioned the many lives that we have had in the past, and it's talking about reincarnation. And I didn't believe it in the past, to be honest, but there are so many examples, so many things that I experienced in my life that can only explain by each of us having many, many past life. And in the human structure, we we learn that because we move through this world as a spirit, we have many, many lives. This is not the only life that we have. And each of the action that we take in this life carry on to the next. And the purpose of our life is to learn from our experience. Why do we have to do that? We're not going to discuss that answer today, but just accept the fact that you know what, there are many, many lives, and understanding it, we can discuss the total karmic that each of us carry. And you might have heard of the expression of the ultimate currency. This presentation can explain that as well. Like, what is the ultimate currency? Like, isn't it the US dollar is the currency? But the ultimate currency is, or can be expressed in the form of energy, as it's this journey introduced. So there are the material world and there is an immaterial world. And the energy part, the spiritual part, we have to borrow the teaching of spirituality, Buddha teaching. And we are taught that each of us are carry three very important total karmic with us. And that's called the total karmic of knowledge, which is the totality of everything that we have learned in the many, many lives that we have experienced. And then we also carry the total karmic affinity, as in the relationship that we have through many, many lives in the past. For example, the opportunity that we met here today is thanks to our total karmic affinity, because somehow we have built relationship in many, many lives in the past. We have the seed of the karmic affinity, and because of that, we are able to meet here today. Or think about the situation where when you just met someone and all of a sudden you feel so connected to this person, and you just love talking to them. And on the other spectrum, there are people who you never met before. They haven't even talked to you, but for some reason, the second that you see them, you just don't like them, right? Something comes up from deep within your inner self that you just simply don't like that person. And this can be explained by the total karmic of affinity. Maybe you and that person was enemy in the past. And the third one that we have is the total karmic result, as in the total result that had laid out in front of you because of everything that you have experienced in the past is guiding you through a journey, and all of the result has already happened. But you get to choose, right? We will get to choose. Each of every decision that we make will will push us toward a direction. For example, I am very aware of my desire of having a healthy body, a beautiful body, but because of how I love to eat, right? I might create an imagination for eating that I enjoy good food and I have a chubbier body shape. And that is the common result of, of me. For someone that can find success in life easily and effortlessly, it can be explained that it is their common result because they have learned it in the past. They have went through that past and they have that information, that knowledge within them to build success and hence the formula of good seed, good karma equal desired outcome. Extremely, extremely important because once we understand our human structure, we will have a better choice to attract the better outcome that we want for our life when we're leaning toward positivity and avoid negativity, which can be explained in the yin yang electromagnetic. And understanding this, it gives us the option to live life the way that we want rather than being pushed around by karma. Now, beside the total karmic of knowledge, total karmic of affinity, and the total karmic of result, our spirit or our genuine true passing by this world, passing by the many, many life, it also carry bad karma, good karma, and radiant karma. And bad karma defined very simply as making other people unhappy, right? If you do something, if you say something that cause others to suffer, then you accumulating this mass of bad karma. On the other on the other hand, when you do something nice to people, when you make other people happy, then you accumulating a mass of good karma. And bad karma and good karma is determine the outcome that you experience in this life. And an act of kindness go a long way because you know what? When you do something nice to other, when you have that positive human nature of generosity, it will come back to you many, many fold over. All right. And this is why we often hear pay it forward, how happiness is very contagious and how important it is to be nice to other, right? Do thing, don't do thing to other the thing that you wouldn't do to yourself. One of the golden rule, and I'm paraphrasing. So in this life, understanding how everything is interconnected, how the immaterial world greatly influence the material world, the experience that we experience in this life, we see the importance of accumulating good karma and avoid bad karma. Now, radiant karma is special, and many of you might never have heard of radiant karma before. In my case, I have not heard of it. Like maybe I heard of it, but I didn't know what it means or how to cultivate radiant karma. Good karma and bad karma, somehow I just know. I simply know what it means or what it does. But when it comes to radiant karma, I didn't know what it was. And you can understand it. You can simply understand it as the radiant energy surrounded by the will to hear, the will to see, the will to speak, and the will to know. The energy of radiant energy is extremely high, extremely balanced. It's kind of like the sunlight, right? Constant speed bring life to the planet. And in order to cultivate the radiant karma and the mass of radiant karma that we can cultivate and add on, we can help other elevate their wisdom or elevate their understanding of the inner self, or simply put, help them help them understand and regain their genuine truth, their will to hear, their will to see, their will to speak, their will to know, surrounded by radiant aura. And it is a pretty big topic, so we are going to discuss it in the presentation of wisdom. Or we can even have question and answer here that I can that we can discuss. But the main point is there are total karmic knowledge, total karmic affinity, total karmic result. And then we have bad karma, good karma, and radiant karma. These are the three masses that we carry in the many life that we have. So are we are we are we good here? Is there any question, or is there any I am that you would like to share, or what you would like to feel on top of this? And I know there's a lot of information. It's just we gotta have this information before we build on uh, further information and discussion. So if you have any question, feel free to type it in the chat regarding the karmic knowledge, the karmic affinity, the karmic result, or bad karma, good karma, and gradient karma. If you have anything you find interesting, actionable, and meaningful, we can discuss as well. I see Giovanni is online with his video. Would you like to share something, Giovanni?
Yeah, I'll just ask a question about the karma aspect of it. When it comes to, I would say our reality, is it just karma in our perception of it? So we can perceive it as radiant, we can perceive it as good, or we can perceive it as bad. How does that work?
Well, prior to this knowledge, I didn't have any perception of karma is something that govern the world around us. And when we borrowing the view of the Buddha teaching, is help us understand how things happen a certain way in our life. For example, for the longest time, I didn't agree with the result of this world as how many people I've seen in my life they have suffered so much, and I didn't think they deserve it. Especially when I see a young child, and of course I don't want to go to negativity, but this is something that I have questioned in the past. When I see a young child that happened to just didn't get to live long, and I was like, that's not right. They didn't do anything wrong. Why didn't they? Why did they have to go through experience? But when it's come to the view of total karma, we can explain that, oh, because maybe they have done something in the past, whether it was good or bad, that they need to experience that in this life so that they can move on to something better or worse, or to just go into the destination that they needed to go to. and I cannot be specific because I don't know what their total karma would look like. But situation like that where we just simply cannot explain by science or by philosophy when we borrow the view of spirituality or religious view, we can we can make sense of it. And that is just one of the example. Um, well, what do you think about that, Shubham?
No, it's just interesting because I just because I wasn't here last week, but I'm looking at knowledge, affinity, and result. And that's KAR, and then I see karma in my head. So I kind of drew I don't
Oh,
know if you could see this, but I drew like a still line. And then from this line, like this is just pure light energy, non-moving stillness energy. This is where all the power is. And then you have, movement and action, which causes either good karma or bad karma, depending on the movement and action. And then I put down here like radiant karma would be like this line extending for more movement and action. So it's just that radiant expands it out. And then when I spell out, you have the knowledge, affinity, the result, but you also have to include the moment, the movement and action, which is part of the result, and that spells out karma to me
wow.
automatically. So
I love that. I love that. And everybody, I believe this is the drawing that I make after the translation of the Cultivate Happiness, Mastering Life, which is the book that I helped translate and Whitney helped with the editing. Whitney Wise that we have in the car, and um, uh, I'm so thankful that we've done that, and the book is going to be public in June. We have hundreds, if not thousands, of the WIT member that is going to promote that book, and I think is will be very very successful. And I love how Giovanni pointed out that knowledge, affinity, and result spelling like the three letter, the three first letter is KAR. That's it, the first three letter of a comma, and it's something that I haven't never thought about, you know. And I don't have a answer for you. Just everything that we present here. I love how you're able to connect and make sense of it. And I think this kind of answer John Bin question in the chat as well. Like she thought it was only comma. Why are there three? So comma is a common word to just explain the uh the relationship and how everything is interconnected in our world to the many many life. But when we explore further, the expert and the grandmasters show us that there are three, and it is important to see all three because all three of those have great influence in our life. For example, have you ever have you ever asked yourself the question why certain people choose to be a doctor, why certain people choose to be a lawyer when others decided to be an artist, a painter? It must have something to do with the knowledge that they accumulate over time, some strong desire within them that guide them toward that direction. And they have to have certain karmic relation, the karmic affinity that connect them to that path, with give them the result of being a doctor, a lawyer, an artist, and so on. So without breaking it down to the three total karmic, we 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 don't have the full picture of the uh, the connection of the three and why certain seed, right, go into certain karma, good karma. And here we want good seed, we want good karma, lead to desired outcome. Because in the first semantic reference system, we've learned that, you know, the outcome that we have in this life is come because of the decision that we make, but more importantly, it's because we are suitable to the outcome. And obviously, no, none of us want to get sick. None of us want to have any undesirable outcome, but we still experience that in our life. So why is that? To simply put, because we are suitable to that situation. Like cancer, for example, nobody wants to have cancer, but it still exists, and some people still suffer. They didn't choose to have that, but the lifestyle that they live is suitable to that outcome. And understanding the root cause of life and the human structure, we see the importance of cultivating good seed, cultivating good karma to materialize the desired outcome. And this is powerful because when you understand and you can grasp this knowledge, only then you can choose to have a choice. So when I translate the word to English, I only have one word, which is choice. In Vietnamese, it's beautiful. It's called chọn lựa. So there's two words to it. The word chọn is like you already choose. It is chosen. Like your life is already predetermined. You only pretend to choose from it. But the reverse word of it in Vietnamese is lựa chọn, as in you have the option to choose. So you can truly choose. You truly have a choice in your life to cultivate the desired outcome that you want. And this is powerful. This is what this journey is all about. Rather letting life happen to you, you can let life happen for you. You can actually have a choice. And this is the important of going through the three semantic reference system. And I can see Giovanni raise his hand again, and I might apologize. I forgot to share my screen, and I've been moving picture around, but we can do that after. Go ahead, Giovanni.
So I'm glad you talk about like how the outcome are based on the decisions that we make. And I think that the outcome is the karma in itself. I think that the outcome is can be seen as either a consequence, which can be either good or bad. But I think that overall, the the karma is just an effect. And the fact that you said that the outcome is based on the decisions that we make means that there's only one cause to everything. Um, because everything that we experience in our life is our effect, it is our karma. So that just means that, with the knowledge part before the affinity, that we have to go back to trying to know trying to know in a way that makes us change our minds to like a growth mindset. And that's why going up is always seen as good, because you grow towards the light. So I just know that we at any time we can change the movement through our actions of the karma when we decide to make a change into something that's positive. So thank you for that.
Right? Yep, absolutely. I appreciate that. And let me go ahead and give some of my friends here co-hosts so that you can help me with the permission. All right. Okay, great. I'm so glad that you point that out, and I love your picture too. By the way, Giovanni, when you share the good karma, the bad karma, and how you draw a straight line right in the middle, because radiant karma is supposed to be very balanced. And for many of us, we often hear the word balance in this world. We want to be balanced. For example, we need a balanced diet, right? The food that you take in is best when you have the balance with the energy output. It will help you live longer. And everything in this world, it is okay to experience, but with balance, right? In in like just good enough. Don't abuse it. And radiant karma is similar. It is very balanced. And later on, right? Later in this journey, you will realize that it's not good to be selfish. Because selfish is you want things for yourself. You want fame, you want money, you want beauty for yourself. And the expert, the great master, tell us that it is very negative. The energy is negative. You just want everything for yourself. On the other spectrum, you have generosity. You want good for other, right? This might appear to be very positive, but after a while, it's kind of not very good because people became very lazy when you give them too much because they didn't see the need to work for themselves. And if you can make an observation of some of the greatest let's say charity organization, and I believe there's reports showing that there are certain place in the world they receive so much help with all of the big organization in the world, and the people they just didn't see the need to go to work. They didn't see the desire to better themselves, and they stay poor for a very very long time. They just couldn't get out of it. And this answered the big question that I had when I was younger. I was like, man, I could see great nation like the US, all of these successful and rich country in Europe. If they can just give us some money, we can be better. Or if they can just give African country, they die of hunger over there, just give them some food. They will be okay. Why didn't they do that? And then later on, I realized that, you know what? You can only open the door for them. You can't drag them through. You can give them money, you can give them food, but it is important that they gotta have that desire to stand on their own feet, to grow. If you give them too much, you are not helping them. You actually hurting them. So it's not good to be too selfish. It's not good to be generous. It's best to be balanced. And in thousands and thousands of years of teaching, we see that there are many, many different ways to exercise your spirit. And I'm not a very religious person, but I proudly say that I'm very spiritual because somehow I get to experience and learn things from many, many great masters. And through my research, I recognize that there are people who went through a spiritual path by exercising their body, right? They only eat vegetable, for example, or they barely eat anything at all. So they can train their body so they can get closer to the genuine truth, to their spirit. There are certain people study their emotion and trying to make an observation to understand their thinking and their action, and some successful at getting near this genuine truth. And many, many people study the human nature so that they can get to the absolute truth, the genuine truth that isn't changed over space and time. So there are different paths to regain the genuine truth. And this journey, it is very simple. We can just accept it. And if you can look at this picture and you can imagine like a spiral shape, right? Or the shape of a hurricane or a storm that you can see on TV. Giovanni live in Florida. He probably see the weatherman talk about storm all the time. I was born and raised in Da Nang, Vietnam. We have like a tropical storm every year, like 9, 10 of them. So if you can just imagine the shape of a hurricane or the storm, we learn from science that at the eye of the storm, right, it's very calm. You don't see no wind. It's just complete balance. But when you step foot just outside of that eye of that storm, the wind is going crazy. It's very destructive. It destroys everything in its path. But if you can just move along the eye of the storm, you are safe. Everything is very calm. So we can even see that in nature, right? Similarly, the the presence or the genuine truth or the spirit that many people seek in their past for a spiritual life. They they there's a lot of trial and error, but it's simple that we understand that there is a genuine truth deep within us that does not change through space time, and just understand that once you get closer to it, when you can recognize it, you can experience this sense of balance, this sense of presence, the sense of peace. And I didn't understand this before, like why people are so drawn into inner peace. But inner peace is another expression of the will to hear, the will to see, the will to speak, the will to know, surrounded by radiant energy. And I'm keep repeating these words because these words are very, very important. Once you understand this, you will understand your total karmic knowledge affinity result. You will understand how bad karma, good karma, and gradient karma influences the experience that we have in this life. In this human structure, we go into need a couple of weeks to dive in much deeper discussion. So feel free to ask questions. Feel free to share your I am, which is something you find interesting, actionable, and meaningful. Because the more we discuss, the more we understand this very, very important um, teaching from the Buddha. So feel free to raise your hand or just type the question in the chat, like John been earlier. Let me go through the chat real quick while I'm waiting for some hand raise. Let me say, Radiant Karma is my favorite takeaway from the book. Mine too. And what else? I see a question here from Betty. Betty Vo asked that what does radiant karma has to do with our life? That is a great question. That is very powerful. That is the same question that I had when I first learned about this lesson. And mm, and that question take me back to the experience that I had when I faced with a very dangerous situation. So I was driving, right? And there was this one car that drive recklessly, and I can see it from far away, and it it was out of control. It was going toward me, and it started flipping, and it's going to crash for me. So during that experience, I can sense that space time is slowing down. Okay, I can see that the car is moving toward me, but instead of being scared of it, instead of getting worried, instead of like freeze up, I experience this sense of calm. And during that calm, I know exactly what to do. I slow my car down and I make further observation of my surrounding. And I simply move my car to the right and get out of the way. All right. Even though it's happened in a split second, it's not even a second. But that experience feel like 5 minutes to me, or maybe a minute. 5 minutes is too tremendous. But pretty much everything slowed down. But instead of getting anxious, instead of not knowing what to do, gradient karma helped me get to that balance zone, and it's helped me get away from the bad karmic result that I may experience. And there's a deeper level to it. But I think we need a good story from anyone to demonstrate that, because this go in a much deeper level. Um, but I think there is another. there are the stories that I can share that can tell us the importance of being balanced. I'm not familiar with the Western story, but in Eastern world, right, during the periods of king, queen, and leaders of a nation, there's often time that some very powerful general in the kingdom they just take over the kingdom by killing the king pretty much. And because of that strong desire, they did that. And then the second that they did that and took over the country, just days or months from it, somebody else did the same thing to them. So they had the desire and they use all of their karma, they use all of their good karma to get the outcome that they want. But because during the process they accumulate a lot of bad karma. So and because of that, the undesired outcome happen very, very quickly. So when you hear some people say that they believe in karma, it means that when you do bad thing, bad outcome will creep up to you. When you do good thing, good karma will happen for you. So radiant karma is very unique. Radiant karma will protect you. Radiant karma, when bad thing about to happen or it have potential to happen to you, radiant karma can kind of like stopping it from happening. And that I'm going to go into a much deeper detail in the next presentation. And radiant karma, you can simply understand it as wisdom, as in your intellect, your knowledge, because you will know what you should do versus what you should not do. For example, you should be kind to others. You shouldn't make people suffer, for example. So karmic or radiant karma can help protect you. And we can understand it in a many, many deeper level. It's just this is a journey. I know you have a lot of questions as I am. And in this journey, I am your fellow journeyer. So even though I am presenting, but I am on the journey as well. I'm trying to understand this knowledge matter. It just there are certain answer that I could not answer fully because we haven't went over enough definition, right? Even the pre symmetric reference system, we barely went over the first one, which is the root cause of life, and we barely touched the human structure. So throughout this journey, we will have a clear understanding of what the seven holistic well are and how that can help us live life to the fullest. As in, we have permission to be human. We get to experience all of the good thing this life has to offer. Also, we find the meaning of life. And I can tell you that right now too. One of the biggest meaning is to regain the will to hear, the will to see, the will to speak, and the will to know, surrounded by the radiant aura. And once you receive it, and I'm using the word receive because it is something that you can only receive, you cannot explain. Because the more you explain it by word, the more distant away you are with it. And this is speaking of this, I remember a quote that I shared recently in happiness study in one of the discussion from Thich Nhat Hanh. Pull that up very uh, quickly. Okay, it's such a profound quote that resonate to me. And Thich Nhat Hanh said that at any moment you have a choice that either lead you closer to your spirit or further away from it. As in our human experience, you always have a choice that either lead you closer to your spirit, which is your will to hear, your will to see, your will to speak, and the will to know, surrounded by radiant energy, or The decision that you make will lead you farther away from it. And when your life is getting closer to your spirit, you can experience love, you can appreciate gratitude, you can experience the good thing that happened for you. And the decision, the choice that you make that lead you further away from your spirit, then undesirable thing would happen. And you can relate this back to the analogy of a hurricane, of a storm. The closer to the storm, the calmer it is. The farther away from it, the more powerful the wind is, the more destructive it is. So moving through life, we didn't develop this sense yet, right? That was me only a few years back. I didn't understand why certain thing happened to me. I thought it was because of other people. I thought it was their fault. But after I learned about this, I was like, oh, that's not it. Everything, everything start with me, right? All the decisions that I've made, the total uh, knowledge, affinity, result that I have, the mass of that karma, good karma and radiant karma, if I have any that I carry, determine the experience that I have. And this will give you a better sense of direction as you move to this life or many life that we might experience. It's kind of like a fish in water. Have you ever asked the question if the fish knows that it's is surrounded by water? And the answer is probably yes. But does the fish always think about it? I don't think so, because for me, I know that I am surrounded by air. It's the air that I breathe in every second, but I'm not always conscious of it, right? So just because you know something, it does not mean that you are conscious of it. Similarly, this human structure, the total karmic knowledge, affinity, result of bad karma, good karma, and the mass of radiant karma, you might not aware of it all the time. But the hope is that you are now so that you can be in more control of your life. Because my experience is once I become aware of this, I was like, oh, I don't want to make other people unhappy, even though I had absolutely nothing to do with it, but I always leaning toward being more kind, more kinder for others. And it is important that we can contribute to the understanding of humanity so that we can elevate civilization to another level. And even scientists are talking about this. They're talking about civilization type zero, type one, type two, type three. And it's only in concept. Yet, thousands and thousands of years ago, we had the teaching of the Buddha and many, many great spiritual leader and borrowing just one of the view from the Buddha teaching, we uh, we simply have a better grasp of what reality is and how we can have more choices in this life. And, I would love to hear what you have to say because I think I can go on for days on this one. It's better that we can actually have a conversation, and not just me listening to my own voice. You know? Mhm. Any thought? Any question? Yep. Oh, I see Whitney. Hello, Whitney. Haven't seen your pretty face in a long time.
Hello. I've had to run around and do stuff for the kids, so I saved you from watching me frantically run around. But I do want to add something because one thing is you don't need anybody else to talk. with everything that you've been dropping because this is like knowledge bomb after knowledge bomb, and it's been so eloquent and just in flow. And so I think that's one of the reasons that there hasn't been as much communication. It's just because it's been really like profound, and I've enjoyed hearing you just give your own impressions on everything. So that's one thing. But I did have um just the note that like what you said about how everything starts with me, that is one of those gems that I think was so big for me in beginning to understand radiant karma is like forgiveness has always been hard for me. And I think that recognizing that really it all comes back to me, whether it's me in this life or me in previous lives, helps me to be able to move forward and forgive and just keep going. So that was a big one for me, a big connection.
Oh, beautiful. I appreciate your kind word, you know, and it's true, everyone. There's a lesson that I've learned in happiness studies on flow state, and it is beautiful. And yes, I can feel it. You know, I can't believe like an hour has passed, and I can speak in flow today much better compared to many, many other time. And for those who are not familiar with the state of flow, it can also be explained as peak performance, as in when you're in flow, you just project, you just project out information at its best. And in um, in the presentation of wisdom, we can learn about the five level of wisdom, and we are going to discuss in more detail. And I see Giovanni raised his hand as well. So we'd like to invite Giovanni to share his thought. Please, Giovanni.
Yeah, I definitely also agree that definitely in flow. And Whitney's 100% right on that. What I wanted to add is that what I'm getting out of this is that what you're telling us is that our only power is in using the will um, to choose our own actions. Um, but what we also have to do is to balance these actions with or between good and bad karma until we um, actually learn that there's only one law that needs to be obeyed or followed, which is the law of balance. So, what I'm getting out of this is that balance is the stillness that has the potential for anything. You know, uh, before you want to jump high, you have to be completely still. You know, so in stillness, that's where the power is. Everything else is just movement. So what you're telling me, or what I'm getting from this, is that the whole purpose in life basically is to find ways through our experiences to manifest this balance in a way that is truthful to us and according to that law. So that's all I'm getting out of it. So thank you.
That is really, really good. And you hitting the nail on its head as in our human experience and the purpose in life. Because for many of us, you know, we do not know where we come from or where are we heading. All of a sudden, we just open our eye and realize that we are in the middle of this world and we don't have any direction. But through this, we can understand certain events that happen in our life, right? For example, there is a an expression of how in this life is it is just lesson, right? Because if you don't learn from the lesson, then life will have its way to present you the lesson again. And until you learn that lesson, the life lesson stop happening to you. And this can start happen, and then it can start happening for you. So we can recognize pattern in life, and we can recognize the direction that we should lean toward. And for this, I would like to bring you back to the principle of light at its much deeper level. Because another way to understand the principle of light is that we can lean toward the direction of light, right? In order to light up the dark room, you can simply bring light into the room. But where can that light come from, right? So in this light, we are leaning toward the light where we see light at the end of the tunnel. So we can have some direction without the aware of how this life is happening, how it is functioning. We wouldn't know where to go. We're just floating through life without any direction. But since we can accept the idea that we have many, many lives, and we can accept the experience that we keep receiving lesson, right? We keep receiving lesson. So it has to mean something. And because we understand it and we proactively learning, we proactively leaning toward light, toward the answer, toward the right direction. And this is the power of I am, right? Something you find interesting, actionable, and meaningful. And it is that way because it's leading you toward the light. It's leading you toward a direction. Because without it, you wouldn't have any direction. And I know Victoria is raising her hand. I would love to hear what she had to say, but let me share my story very quickly. Like a really, really big question that I had when I was younger, and not until later in life that I found the answer. And the story is that, when I was in high school, I had to walk to my school because it's only like 2 blocks away. So each morning I wake up early, get ready, walk to school 2 blocks away. And in one of the intersection, I always see this older lady. I think she is in her 70 or 80, pretty old, but she always happy. And she sells sticky rice as breakfast for a living. And I don't buy from her, but I always see her every single day I walk to school. But there was one day that I walked to that intersection. I see her, but she wasn't selling. She was actually sleeping on the side of the street. And all of a sudden, there is something inside of me comes up, and I feel sorry for her, Like in her 80s, she should have her children or grandchildren take care of her. She shouldn't be out in the street selling sticky rice. She shouldn't be sleeping on the street at all. But she did. I think I was only 15 or 14 years old back then. And the more I explore human history, I see a lot of suffering. And I was like, why did this happen? It doesn't make any sense. If there is a great, all powerful God, it shouldn't happen, right? A lot of people, they are good people. They didn't even do anything wrong, yet bad thing happened to them. But when it's come to this knowledge, it's kind of help us answer it. Because you know what? God didn't do this. We did it. We did this to ourselves. Throughout human history, it is proven that we constantly live in war. We are in the middle of war right now. You might live in peace thanks to your total karma, but in Israel, this war is happening right now. In East Russia, right? The war is happening. There's certain war happened that we are not even aware of. So even though bad thing happen, but when we borrowing the view of the Buddha teaching, the idea of many, many lives, we understand that, you know what, I might not do anything bad in this life, but because of the decision, because of whatever mistake that I might have made in the past is leading me toward the result that I experience today. And to answer Betty earlier, the beauty of radiant aura is that if you can cultivate it, we don't know if we even have it. If you can cultivate it, the great master tell us that this can help protect you from the bad karma that you have cultivated in the past, in many, many lives in the past. So this view helped me answer my big question. Because in the past, I just couldn't accept it. Because I know there's certain people they didn't do anything wrong. They didn't deserve to experience that, and they did regardless. So thanks for letting me share that real quick. And Victoria, thanks for waiting. I'm sure you will have some great point of view to share. So feel free to unmute yourself.
Hi, Ben. Hi, everyone. Thank you. Well, I don't have much to share because most of the, I think, important thing has been said already. So I just would like to share a little bit from Buddhist perspective on karma, because according to Buddhist teaching, karma is one of the most complex topics. And to put it very simple, karma just simply means that an instance of cause and effects, which means that as a person, our main function is to create actions and then experience the effects of our action. So clearly, there's a strong relationship between what we now experience and what we have done in the past, and what we are doing now will give rise to what we have or will have to experience in the future. So for me, that is so simple. I try to put it in a simple way so that I can remember and put into my daily life practice. But one of the things that at first I was struggle to believe in it, because sometimes I see many injustice in life. And then at some time in my life, I was even had a dream to become a judge, so that I could give justice in this world, because I feel, okay, if the law of karma is functioning well, there are good people, apparently good people, but they experiencing bad thing in their life, and vice versa, there's a very good people, but they experience bad thing in their life. So at some time I was in doubt. I didn't believe. But the more I do meditation, the more I reflect on this topic, the more I can gain deeper understanding and my strong belief in karma. This because I explained to myself that there's a big gap between our action and the effect to be experienced. Just like we sow a seed of an apple, it takes some time for the apple tree to grow, and sometimes maybe it takes several lifetimes for an effect to arise. So that's why if we strongly believe in karma, it's beneficial, because we think that, okay, if we are doing good thing, certainly we will experience good thing. And because if we experience something bad now, for example, like just Whitney mentioned about somebody doing thing wrong to you, and you feel it is unfair, I cannot forgive, because definitely that person has done something to me and caused me harm. So I can't forgive. But if we believe in karma, we think, okay, there should have been a good reason that why that person did harm to me. I must have done something to that person or another person or whatever, but there should have been some action related to the harm that I have received. So if you want to not to go to the downward spiral, then we just need to stop. We just need to say, okay, that's enough. That's action. Okay, some person return me the harm. But if I repeat the cycle, then I can't forgive. Then there's still an imprint. There's still something not going well in my mind, and I'm not at peace. And at some occasion, maybe condition will come, because we are not completely in control of our life. Definitely when something condition gather with that mind of not forgiving, we will be very likely to engage in action that harm back that person or somebody related to that person or whatever it is. So it's very, very important if we want to gain in peace and we want to experience radiant karma, as Ben just mentioned, then we need to learn how to forgive, because it's very important if we are able to forgive others and even forgive ourselves. Because most importantly, when we decide to forgive other, actually is we decide to forgive ourselves, because our previous self, that same self, has done something to that person which deserves to receive this harm. So we have to forgive. We have to forgive according to the law of karma. So for me, it's very, very beneficial to reflect deeply and to gain understanding and realization of how the law of karma works, so that we can first gain peace of mind, inner peace. And also from that space, from that balance, like Giovanni just mentioned, before we go high, before we want to jump, before we want to create more radiant codes for our radiant karma, we need to be in a state of peace and calm, so that we can see clearly what action we can do, so that we can create the outcome that we desire for our future. Some teaching is very simple. For example, in terms of happiness, what causes happiness? What is the cause to experience happiness all the time? That, according to this teaching, is discipline, and more specifically is moral discipline. Discipline just means, okay, I give up to thinking negative about other. I give up criticizing other. I try to develop positive mind. And that kind of very simple thing require a lot of effort. But also according to the law of karma, according to the law of karma, if we have effort, then we will be successful. So no matter how hard our practice seems to be, if we have faith and we have effort, then we will be successful in what we are doing. So for me, the law of karma really functions and really works for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Victoria. Thanks for bringing up the cause and effect, and you put it beautifully, and I love how you connect it to happiness study as well. And to continue the idea from Victoria and connect that to the picture of the drawing that Giovanni shared earlier. And the question, the beautiful question from Betty, I would like to connect all of it into one drawing that can help us understand our movement in this life. So like what Giovanni pointed out earlier, when it's come to good karma and bad karma, or we can call it the relation of the yin and yang electromagnetic field. So the red one represents positive, and the blue one is representing the negative energy for good karma and bad karma. You can see this shape as a wave. So if we can observe light, we can see many wave shape like this. So when we are too positive, right? When we lean in more toward positivity, at some point, it will flip into negative. And with negativity, at some point, it will flip into positivity. And this is something that we can observe out in nature, right? And this is the importance of radiant karma and making an observation of human history in the past. You can recognize that, let's say, thousands of years ago, people are leaning more toward avoiding creating bad karma, right? They are avoiding doing harm to other people because they was living at war, right? Kill or be killed. It is as simple as that. So they are avoiding cultivating bad karma. The world that we are living in right now, even though we are living in the middle of war, we can find peace. Okay. So in this world, you can see that people are leaning toward cultivating good karma so that they can live a good life, right? Looking at billionaire like Bill Gates, he bring a lot of joy through computer. He make a lot of money. His life is pretty good compared to everybody else. Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, right? It was all about cultivating good karma. And the question of Betty earlier and what Giovanni shared with us, what Whitney shared with us, what Victoria shared with us, you can see the next step of humanity, of the importance of radiant karma. Why do you even care about radiant karma, right? It's because of this picture here. Moving in this life, the yin and yang electromagnetic field will cause us to go from negative to positive, down to negative, going up to positive, and the cycle continue. Just like you're born into this world as a young child, you grow up to be an adult, find some success in life, and then you're getting weaker, you're getting sick, and then you die, and then the cycle continue. Or you can observe in our nature, you have the fall, and then you have the winter, and then you have spring, and then you have summer. You always see this wavelength, you always see this cycle. So you don't want to be negative, you don't want to be positive. You don't want to just cultivate avoid bad karma, cultivate good karma, because eventually the cycle will continue. And the observation that I make um, about like 2,000 years ago, very, very interesting, because the world were at constant war back then. And the leader of the world, they make a very difficult decision. They make the decision to unite the world, right? Which means that they have to explore and conquer. They have to kill a lot of people in the process. Why did they do that? They didn't do that for power. They want to unify humanity so that they can avoid bad things from happening. But in the process, they have to kill a lot of people. Right? Alexander the Great, Genghis Khan, and then there's a king in China. I forgot his name. But in the process of unification of China, or in the process of unification of the world, a lot of people have to die. So they start out good. They want good thing for people. They want peace. But in that process, it's dragged them down to a negative life, and they met the end horribly, horribly. So in life, you don't want to be negative or positive. What you want is to be in balance. What you want is having wisdom, right? Helping other people gain wisdom so they know that we can coexist. So they can know that this is not a zero-sum game, which means that just because you gain something doesn't mean I have to lose something. This is a total positive sum game where when I'm happy, you are happy. The idea of Ubuntu, a concept that we will learn for in happiness study, is one of the African philosophy. I am happy because you are happy, right? I am experiencing great thing in life because you experience great thing in life. We are all in this together. So through wisdom, to inner peace, through balance, and this is deep, all right. Today, just great uh, situation to express this. And if you don't get it, it's fine. There is a journey. We will have many, many opportunities to make sense of this. But the important thing is we want to cultivate more radiant rock karma because it will protect us. At the same time, it's good to cultivate some good karma, but you don't want to have a too strong of a desire to it, because desire or greed and imagination, that is what causes the cycle to continue. Because if you're too positive, you will be sure to be negative one day. Or if you are too negative, you will be positive, right? And I see this even in ancient country too, when someone want all the money for themselves. At some point, they have so much money they don't know what to do with it. So they started to give it out. They started to do good thing with it, and the cycle continue, where it is a vicious cycle. So what you want is just like what Giovanni said, the middle path, the balanced path, the radiant karma. And it's called radiant because just like sunlight, it's give life, it's give energy, it's give balance. Maybe that's why the speed is constant. Maybe that's why the wavelength is constant. And maybe that's why it is a representation of the truth, the genuine truth. It doesn't change over space time, right? The only thing in this world right now that I have no of is light. Its speed remain constant, which is very, very interesting. Let me just finish this. Radiant. I think this is how I write it. Radiant. Oh, the great master shared with us that this is what we need to cultivate. And this will make a huge difference in life. And with that, we 2 minutes. We went over 2 minutes. So um, I know many people might have a lot of questions, but we will meet again next week. I will be traveling, but I make a commitment to this, so we will keep the Zoom open. And the human structure, we probably need probably 3 or 5 more sessions to dive in a much deeper this discussion. But today it is very rich, it is very powerful, and I have all of you to thanks for that. So I would like to play a song. We have to say goodbye, but I think this is good for a long journey. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for your input and sharing. I've learned a lot myself. I'm the one that speaking the most, but I am reflecting what I've learned from you, because you know what? Each of us have our total karmic knowledge affinity result. Good karma and gradient karma. I'm going to try to avoid this. So together, having this understanding, together being here in this zone, this is very, very powerful. I can feel it. I don't know about you, but I can feel it. Just your presence here and the ability to learn with each other. Beautiful. So again, thank you for that, and I will see you next week.